the time to Red to present his prepared materials. I think you can use 30 minutes, or if you need more, you can let us know. I think we're quite flexible with this schedule.
Okay.
Okay, please.
So can I share the screen now?
I think yeah, you can try.
Yeah, okay. Wait. Okay, I'll try to share. I can see my screen, but okay, there. Can you see my guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So good morning, Vera, Kay, and William. So
good morning.
So I'm presenting analytic hierarchy process, AHP. So it surprises me that I'm the only one who doesn't know this, but it was a pleasure knowing it for the first time because of this course.
No pressure, no pressure.
Anyway, I enjoyed learning this. Anyway,
okay.
So very similar to the presentation posted by Vera. So I adapted my presentation on those contents, but tried to change some minor things, okay? Right. So the contents of the presentations are the following: the AHP itself, the need for the decision-making methodologies, and then understanding the process itself, developing the model, deriving priorities and weights for the criteria, derive local priorities, then overall priorities or the model synthesis, perform sensitivity analysis, then making the final decision finally. And then I also tried the software and found a lot more learnings after comparing the result against the one I did manually. Okay. So again, the course outcomes. Please, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to stop me anytime. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. So course outcome, again, analyze the various multi-criteria decision-making methods, and this is one of them. So in the introduction, presented in the book, by Nu Enrique and Pereira Rojas, it says that we people, human beings, are always faced with situations where we have to make decisions individually and sometimes as a group, or for example, as a family. So initially, when we do decision-making process, it was a rational process of analyzing problems and seeking solutions. But with the development of a lot of things, in recent years, it has become clear that we, human beings, are far from making a rational decision. So psychological studies have found that there are cognitive anomalies and biases experienced by the people making decisions. Okay, so these biases and the increasing complexity of problems facing the people make it extremely important to adopt a methodology for making a straightforward or easy to use and understand decision-making tool. Okay, so it is said that effective decision-making and safe will be beneficial for everyone. So one of the tools that we are discussing is AHP, Analytic Hierarchy Process. So apparently this tool meets all the requirements, and since its appearance in 1980, it has been adopted and used more and more by a number of institutions all over the world. Okay, the need for another decision-making methodology. So there are three types of management roles. Okay, number one is interpersonal. This refers to the ability of the manager of being the figurehead, and somehow part of his job is to motivate people, and communicate the company, the product to the public. One good example is Steve Jobs. Imagine him presenting a new Apple product. So that's interpersonal. And then the next one is informational. No, it is one management role or a manager's role as an information broker or disseminator. Meaning is if a company created a policy, then the manager will have to relay the information to the workers. No? And then lastly is decisional. Now, this refers to the power and ability of making decisions. So needless to say, a correct or incorrect decision will make the firm succeed or fail. So that's what makes decision-making ability very important. So the most
Sorry about that.
okay.
Red, can you go back a
Yes.
little bit? Since you are open for question in the middle of your presentation, I'm interested in this one. I remember I read this one as well in I don't know which part of that book. But somehow I really want to ask questions about this to the people that already experienced through these management roles. Perhaps like you read, yeah, there has
Yes.
been experience with I think all of those type of management roles, right? And along the career, like the end when we enter the company, perhaps would you like explain a little bit which part you are be more responsible with among these three, and then after how long normally you will go to the portion will change, right? For example, if you become a manager, then you need to be have more decision making decision, something like that. And if you are entry level, maybe you need to more have an interpersonal so that you can collaborate with your colleagues, something like that. Would you describe it a little bit on your experience, right? Maybe like
Yes.
Williams and Kay
Okay.
can have like sharing experience about with this.
Okay. So in my case, no, I started. I would like to touch more on my career in the aviation industry.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So yeah, as a pilot, for example, I started as a co-pilot. So when you are a new co-pilot, you are a newbie. So you're flying with different captains. So you're relating to different people. Okay. So the problem is you fly today with one captain and then the next day you fly with another one. So you are facing a lot of different characters, no? Especially when different in a flight there is no similar flight actually, because today you will fly on a different weather, different problem technical for the aircraft, different captain, different destination, different weather for that particular destination, and different cabin crew and different passengers. So every day is different. So sometimes your interpersonal skill will have to adapt to these people.
Yeah.
Okay, so you should not, if you're someone who is highly opinionated, you cannot do that because some people will be offended. No?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then later on, when you progress in the company, for in my case as a captain, then now it becomes different. You are now, people will now listen to you. No, as a manager, people tends to listen to you. Now you have to be more informational. You have to find ways to relate the information to your people, how to do things effectively. So again, you're dealing with different people, but now you are the one common denominator. So you have to handle it. After understanding as a newbie that you are dealing with different people, now as somebody in position, now you have to adjust to their characters as well.
Yep. Now you're thinking about will they understand the
yes,
instruction
how
that
you
you
relay
give?
information. Because I'm sure you had a problem before when you were a newbie, you were starting. Okay. So those experience you got, they may be negative, but somebody, if you become a manager, you should have learned from those experiences and try to improve, try to make yourself better than those people.
Great.
And then later on, when I became a manager, part of management, then I handled a group. Now, decision making is very important. There there are distinct characteristics in the Philippine culture. For example, I'll give an example. I handle training. So part of the training requirement is to provide training to the pilots. So me as a manager will have to find ways to improve how training is given to the people, and at the same time to look for the best option, cheaper ones. Not really the cost itself, but how to effectively handle training, because training in aviation costs a lot of money. Okay, so it's very expensive. Imagine $500 per hour, requiring 4 hours of session in the simulator, and you have to do it 2 days for each pair of pilots every 6 months. So you can just imagine the enormous amount of money in our case in foreign currency that we have to spend for training. Now I'm deciding on where to bring them or how to improve the training material. So in one case, now decision making, actually, this is what made me very disappointed about the Philippine culture. Just to tell you, I think we have a very similar culture, but in our case, Philippine Airlines is a very traditional company. So what happens is, for example, a vendor approached me and gave me a detailed summary of things they want to do with an existing equipment. For example, a training device. Okay, training device would normally be composed of a screen, a computer software, and some hardware materials. Then the vendor, an international company, approached me, and they are offering a certain product to improve what was existing. So I looked at the presentation and I said, "Wow, this is a good choice, no?" But the need for that certain proposal and project to be implemented, I have to face the board. So I scheduled a meeting with the board of the top management, mostly senior vice president and the company president. So I made a presentation about it, and then they approved it. So knowing that it will be beneficial for us cost-wise and everything, the materials, the device is already in Manila. We don't have to go out of the country for any improvement. But the culture is so it is approved by the board. Once it is approved by the board, what happens is they don't implement it. They will bring it to a department. They will bring it to a department that will decide on the project. So you're actually not deciding. You decided to present it to the board, and they approved it. But on the implementation, you know what the company will do? The one who receives the project, the approved project, they will look for 2 more vendors. So then they will evaluate. No, they will evaluate which one is. So normally the issue there is only pricing.
I see.
And it takes time to decide. No? So you're actually not part of the decision making. So other decisions I create. Yes. Sometimes there are in the company I have made some decisions, but I think they're not that big decisions actually, not numbers, because more on who to send to those minor decisions. But for the big decisions where the top officers will handle them,
Normally,
actually,
different way.
different, yes.
Okay, I think that will be the more higher level in the management, right?
Yes.
Okay, but I think it's a very nice sharing, right? At
Thank
least
you.
William and Kay that currently at the early of their career can look on your experience so that they somehow it may not be, it may be different path, but somehow it will be looks like that, right? So later on you can share more, right? But for now, let's continue the presentation.
Thank you. Okay. So so the most popular model of decision making was proposed in 1960 by Simon, and they are actually comprising of the following steps. So we are always associated with the question, what is the decision we face? So it will depend on what is the issue facing us. Then the next step is the design stage, where you allow to propose alternatives and criteria to evaluate those alternatives. And then the selection stage consists of applying the proposed criteria to choose the best alternative. And then lastly is making the choice and implementing that chosen alternative. So the problem with making a good decision, basically, again, is based on the cognitive biases. Okay, so to avoid that, we have to look for a certain decision methodology that can help minimize the biases and increase the likelihood of making the correct and effective decisions. So pros and cons. Okay, I think everybody knows these pros and cons. Yeah. Pros and cons is, I think, the next best thing compared to intuitive decision making. Okay, so for example, you go to a supermarket or a department store, you want to buy something, you look at the item, you buy it because you like it, although there are some alternatives. But in the pros and cons, it gives you time to list perhaps what are the pros and what are the cons. Okay, so when I see this, it says the method is, despite its limitation, is a good improvement over one's intuition to make decision. Yeah, no, but I think for me personally, pros and cons is not really effective until I saw this one. For example, the benefit satisfaction provided by one pro or positive aspect, may be canceled out by the cost and pain of two specific cons. I never saw it that way. So pros and cons, you list it, but for me, that is very ineffective still, because I did not realize that you have one way of doing it is you have to count the pros and cons and canceling out. That's one. Yeah. Then again, the decision-making methodology, the process is complicated when the number of alternatives and factors becomes very large. Okay, become very large, and a better method is needed. Okay, and there are several methods of decision-making, but most of them require trainings in economics, operations research, statistics, probability, and others. Now came this tool, analytic hierarchy process, developed by Professor Thomas Sati, 1980. So the tool, which is known to the three of you, will allow for structuring the decision hierarchy, to reduce the complexity. Then we will show the relationship between objectives or the criteria, and then what are the possible alternatives. Okay, so it says here the biggest advantage of the method is that it allows the inclusion of intangibles such as experience, preferences, intuition, and in a logical and structured way. So the decision, the AHP criteria can be used for the three, as we discussed in the first discussion, on MCDA: choice problems, ranking problems, and sorting problems by the AHP sort. Okay, so the basic theory of AHP methodology requires the following steps. Okay, so there will be 3 levels. Okay, so the first is to find a certain goal. Okay, so you have to develop a certain goal as the first level in the hierarchy. So 3 levels: the development of the hierarchy. Level 1 is goal. The second will be criteria, and the third one will be the alternatives. And then after that, the process requires us to assess relative weights of the criteria, then assess the alternatives, relative priority with respect to criteria, and then finally calculating the overall priorities. So in the presentation and in most of the materials that I have seen, the car is the example. I try to make it different. Okay. So I wanted to try this. Take example of choosing an airline to take for travel. So I'm assuming I'm taking So Philippines, like Indonesia, is composed of many islands. So I'm thinking of going from Manila to one of the major cities or tourist destinations. So we have to take an airline for the travel. So the selection by is based on different criteria such as ticket price. So how much is the ticket? Reliability of the airline in terms of reputation.
Yep.
And then the schedule, which airline provides a better schedule. There are airlines that operate to a certain destination with several time schedules, no, in a day. But the major carrier will provide very limited number of time schedule, but they utilize bigger aircraft. So there's a different strategy there. No? It depends on the airline. And then the last is the quality of in-flight services. So one would ask, why is safety not included? So my reason is that all airlines are supposed to be safe. It is highly regulated. So if you want to operate as an airline, you have to follow the rules. So I removed safety aspects. So I am assuming all airlines are safe.
Then let's go to the reputation right now, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we assume all safety, but the reputation will be different from one airline to another airline. So you have the reputation there, is it?
No, reliability is in terms of cancellation of flights.
Okay.
Yeah, technical problems, limited number of aircraft. So that is the reliability.
We can think about that later. But
yes, later.
No, the example that you have now, it's good. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So we could evaluate several alternatives. So let's assume we only have two. Okay. So airline 1 and airline 2. So I'm not mentioning them, but in my mind, I'm comparing one airline to the other. To analyze the decision of choosing an airline using the AHP, we should follow the following steps. So again, develop a model, derive priorities and weights for the criteria, and then derive local priorities for the alternatives, model synthesis for the overall priorities, perform sensitivity analysis, and again, the last one is the final decision. Okay. So I tried to develop the model this way. So level 1 is the goal. So select an airline, okay, for this particular destination. And then level 2 criteria is the criteria. So I established 4 criteria: ticket price, reliability, time schedule, and in-flight service. Okay, and then the last one will be the airline 1 and the airline 2 as my alternatives. Okay, so we have to connect. So when we select an airline, we have to consider the 4 criteria, and then for each criteria, we have to apply them each to the alternatives that we have. Okay. Okay. Second step in the AHP is to derive the relative priorities. Okay, so we have here the intensity scale of criteria pairwise comparison developed by SATI. So one being equal, and I think you understand this, so I don't want to discuss this anymore. I'll explain it later as we apply it in the analysis. Okay. And then assessing criteria of relative importance. We are required to derive pairwise comparison. So as an example, no, this is the 4 pairwise comparison matrix. So you have the value there, but I haven't specified. I just want to show how it looks like the matrix now. And then to do the pairwise comparison itself, we have to use the table. So now in this table, you can see, for both the horizontal and vertical axis, I have price, reliability, schedule, price on the other side. Okay, so I measured based on my own perspective of the 2 airlines. So in terms of price, so airline 1 will have a higher reliability. For the criteria, For the criteria, I mean the price is more important than the reliability. So 7 will tell us it is very strong. So one criterion is very strongly more important than the other. Okay, and then price against schedule, I measured it at 5, strong. And then for the service is moderately. no, moderately strong in terms of importance. Okay, and then we have to compare. So you can see the shaded area is what we will use, no, but the other ones on the other side will be the reciprocal. So these are equal: price, reliability, and so on. Okay. So the next step is to calculate the overall priorities or weights of criteria, either exact or approximate method. No, so I learned this, no, in the first when I analyzed this. So later on in the use of the software, I realized that when using the direct values, that will be the exact way of the exact method, no, of doing the priorities. Okay, so in this one we made use of the approximate method, basically because of its simplicity, no? But we have to keep in mind, no, that this method provides valid approximation to the overall weights only when we have a very high consistency, no, in the way we evaluated or we did the approximation. The approximate method requires the normalization of the comparison, which we will do later, and then we have to do the steps. Okay, normalization. So in this column, as you can see, 7, the reciprocal will be 0.143, 1/7. So numerical value. Okay, and then this is what we arrived at. Okay, so from this, so we added them. So you can see from the, I hope the cursor is visible. Okay,
Yes,
so the cursor here, yeah. So price, so we added them. So reliability, schedule, service. Okay, we're trying to derive the priorities. Okay, so when we have the sum already for each column of the criteria, then we have to divide the value over the sum total. So I did that. For example, 1 divided by 1.676 will be 0.597 for the price. And then 0.143 divided by 1.676 will give you 0.085. Okay, so we did that for the entire table. So this is called column addition. This is the normalized matrix after doing that. Okay. So in the next table, out of the normalized matrix, okay. So from the normalized matrix, so we have this already. Okay. So what we did is we were able to arrive at the priorities, these values, no, by doing this. For example, no, we calculate the average value of each row. Okay, average value of each row by simply calculating the average value, no, for example, the price 0.597, no, plus 0.844 plus 405 and 0.2 divided by 4 will give us 0.512. So this becomes the priority for each criterion. So for the schedule, it will be 0.105, and for the service, 0.077. So we have already calculated the weight priorities, and we go back to the original table, the pairwise comparison matrix. So we bring that up, okay, the priorities. Now we have established the priorities. No? So we did that because the final weight are commonly displayed along the original judgments. Okay, so this is what we did here. And then for the next one, we have to discuss the consistency of the judgments. No? So I learned this when I applied the software itself, because it says here, no, the judgment, the criteria should be less than 10%, no, meaning the inconsistency is less than 10% of 500 random matrices. So I checked that. So I learned that only in the use of the software. So I'm sure we don't have to discuss this, okay? So we have to do consistency check.
Yeah, okay. Do you have any question? Yeah,
No,
sure.
I would just like to say that how he explains like the whole topic made it more clearer because we didn't really discuss it like that. We were just taught how to do it in Excel, and then we were told to make a paper on it and not like really in detail, like do the matrices of the priorities.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Thank you,
really appreciate
Kay.
that. Thank you then, sir.
Yeah, you have actually discussed it very well, Sir Red.
Yeah, we
Thank
Uh,
were
you,
talking
Kay.
about like
Other
we
than
understood
our
it
prof.
way better.
Yeah, we
Okay, thank
understand it way
you.
better.
Don't worry, I studied it for 1 week. All I did was AHP for the past week.
Very good. But
Anyway,
this one, up until this point, very, very clear presentation,
okay,
right? Yeah.
thank you. Okay, so since the calculation of the consistency ratio is easily performed by computer programs, as I said, no, I learned it using the software. So we limit ourselves in producing the estimates value as follows. Okay, so we do this, as you noticed. So we have established the criteria rates. No? This is the priority on the side earlier. So for each criteria, you have the criteria weights: 0.512, 0.306, 0.105, and 0.007. Okay, so we are now going to for the next step, no? So these are the priorities using these factors, no, as priority factors. Okay, so we did this as I mentioned, diba? From we based on the pairwise comparison matrix, we listed the priorities on the side, and then as you can see, these priorities will be criteria weights, which we will use again for the next step. Okay, so refer to this table. Okay, so again, 512, 306, 105, 077. Okay, so these are derived from previous tables. Now we have to do the next step. Okay, so the way we did it, no, if we apply it to the original table, so you can see in the use of so one, no, you realize that the price and price will have a value of 1. So we multiply 1 by 0.512. So we have that value 0.512, and then the next one 0.512, the one on top. No, I just want to emphasize this, 0.512. Okay, 512, we multiply it with the value on top. Okay, so that's the value, and for each one of them we will use 0.512. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, so 1.512 will give us 1.512, and then the next is this is 1/7 times 0.512 will give us 0.073, and then 0.2 times 0.512 for the entire column of price, 0.102, then 0.333 by 0.512 will give us 0.170. Okay, so we did that for everything, no? multiplying the criteria weights, which actually are the priorities we derived earlier, for each of the numbers in the original table. Okay, so we did that, and then the values will be added for each row to obtain a set of values called the weighted sum. Okay, so after doing that, no, we added everything, so we have the weighted sum on the right side. Very tedious, but very achievable if we do it step by step. Okay, so we added them, and we arrive at certain values, no? So weighted sum 314, 1.625, 0.489, 0.32. Okay, but these values now we have to apply to our original model, no? So as you can see, we can always go back to the values, no? So these are the values, no, when we use the evaluation for the criteria: 0.512, 306, 105, and 077. Now the values that we have to apply to the two alternatives. Okay, so but before we do that, we have to use now the evaluation of the alternatives. Okay, so this is what we call derived local priorities preference for the alternatives. Remember, we have already done it for the criteria. Now we are into the alternatives. Okay, so if we have 3 alternatives, it becomes complicated because we have to compare alternative 1 with alternative 2, then alternative 2 with alternative 3, and then 3 with alternative 1. Okay, so that will create a more complex matrix, no? But for this, no, I only did 2, no, 2. Okay, 2 alternatives. So in the 4th step, we need to calculate the priority, okay, for the alternatives, for each alternatives. Priorities that take into account not only one preference of alternatives for each criterion, but also the fact that each criterion has different weight. So the start the calculation of the overall priority using the local priority of each alternative. Anyway, I just want to show this. No, this was part of the discussion, but it's better to understand it when we apply. Okay, so look here. So I have to create, no, derived local preferences for the 2 alternatives. So in terms of price, okay. So in terms of price, airline 1 and airline 2. So in my analysis, airline 1 will not fare better than airline 2 because the airline 2 is sells ticket a lot cheaper. So in the table here, you will notice that I rated 5 strongly, no, strongly more important than the other. So meaning I prioritize airline 2 over airline 1. So point 2 will be the reciprocal. So in this table, you should understand that airline 2 is better, stronger, no, comparison with respect to price. Okay, and then for the reliability issue, so airline 1 is more reliable, 7, which means very strong. No, the criteria is the alternative 1 is very strongly more preferable than the other alternative. So 7 over 0.143. No? And then we do the following steps. Now, after that, we add again. We add, no? And then basically the same step. No, 1 over 6 is 0.167. 5 over 6 is 0.833. And then the same for the airline 2, 0.2 and 1 is 1.2. Okay, so we have that. Okay. Now, you will notice that after that value, you have priority values now. So these are your local priority preferences. Okay, so with respect to the price. So is it possible? Can we establish that the airline 2 is much preferred, no, than airline 1 because airline 2 sells tickets a lot cheaper than airline 1. Okay, so that is the number established there. So for the reliability, it's the other way around. No, so airline 2 is very strongly preferred in terms of reliability. No, so we get the value again, percentage 1 divided by 1.43 gives us 0.875 and so on. Okay, so we have the priority values now, 875 and 125. Notice that the total will always be 1. Okay, so for the price, it's airline 2 who wins, and for the reliability, it's airline 1. Okay, so we do that again for the other 2 criteria, schedule. Okay, and then for the schedule, I think airline 2 is better because they operate more flights between the 2 points. So it's that gives us a value of airline 2 winning 0.667 against 0.333. And then for the service, so airline 1 wins. So reliability and service the reliability is more on technical, no? But in the in-flight service, I think you will gauge now that airline one will be more on a legacy, no? The other one will be lower price, no? Lower reliability, and maybe poor service compared to the airline one. So those are the values we derived, no? When we did the preferences for the alternatives. So very straightforward, especially when we are dealing with two alternatives. So these are the alternatives, not the preferences for the alternatives. So airline 1 and airline 2. Okay, so in terms of price, again, airline 2. In terms of reliability, airline 1. Schedule, airline 2. Service, airline 1. So that's what I came up with for the analysis. Now we have to do the model synthesis. So these are the values. No? If you will notice, these are the values we derive, the priorities for the criteria. And then these are the ones for each alternative with respect to the criteria. For example, just to show you, know, ticket price, as we said, airline 1 will cost a lot and airline 2 is a lot cheaper. So we choose airline 1 in terms of ticket price. In terms of reliability, it's airline 1. No, 875 against 0.125. For the schedule, this 333 or 1/3 for the airline 1, 2/3 for airline 2, and in-flight service much better for airline 1 than airline 2. Okay, so that's how we arrived at the final model. Okay, now we have to do the next step. Okay, the calculation for each alternative are shown below. Okay, so as you can see, this is the next step, but you simply have to apply, you know, the values derived, the priorities for both the criteria and for the alternative. So example, overall priority for airline 1. So 0.512, okay, times the value 167. So this one, 512, 167 plus, okay, airline 1, 0.306, no? 0.306 multiplied by 0.875. So these are all the lines leading to airline 1 using the values, the priorities for the criteria, for each criteria. So 0.105 multiplied by 0.105 multiplied by, so this is 306, 0.105 multiplied by, I think so 889 and 077. So 0.105 multiplied, sorry, this value, no, this value should, sorry, I'm lost there. 0.3, okay. 0.333, this one, multiplied by 0.105. Okay. So we do that also for airline 2. So for airline 2, for example, 0.512 multiplied by 0.888 leading to airline 2, 0.306 and 0.105, no, leading to airline 2, 105 multiplied by 667, and then 0.077 multiplied by 0.111. So we arrived at the two overall priority values. So this process is called the model synthesis. Okay. Now we have to do the sensitivity analysis. The process of sensitivity analysis constitutes the fifth step in the AHP methodology. So how do we do that? Okay, the overall priorities, no, as we have established, are these, based on the last computation. No? 0.457 for airline 1 and 0.546 for airline 2. No? And then we have the weights already, no? 512, 306, 105, and 077 for the weights. Okay. It is useful to perform a what-if analysis to see how the final results would have changed if the weights of the criteria would have been different. So the way I did it, you only do that two ways. No? Number one is to assume, no, that all of the criteria have the same value. So you divide the whole value 1 into 4. So that's why we have 0.25, 25, 25, 25, and then you multiply that, you arrive at these values. So the meaning of that is that if everything equal, if the weights are equal, we will choose airline 1. Okay, we will choose airline 1. Okay, because it has a overall values. Meaning, for example, if the value we give to the price is 0.25 or 1/4, then we will choose, of course, you multiply, we use that for you rate the alternatives, then you will see that applying those in the criteria, you will have airline 1 because they have a bigger value comparatively in terms of reliability and service. Okay, so that's one assumption. And then for the next one, what I did here is to have equally, you have to remember now when we started this, the best, the most, the prevailing, I mean the important part, no, the criteria that stands out between the two is the cost, no, is the price, no. So when I gave priority, no, to the price between airline 1 and airline 2, the total value of this one is, remember I have 4 criteria, no. So this is 0.21, 0.21, 0.21, that's 0.63. If you add it to 0.37, the total is 1. Okay. So that's how I did that. So it's basically a trial and error just to arrive at the whole number. So if I do that, no, why did I do that? Because I want to make the overall, no, I want to make the overall factors almost equal. So in this case, I arrive at that value and found out that the difference will be 0.004, which is already acceptable. No? So the sensitivity analysis allow us to understand how robust is the original decision. Now, what is the driver? So it says here, now which criteria influence the original result? So the original result favored, I just want to remind you now, favored airline 2. No, it favored airline 2. And if you look again, no, I just want to emphasize this. If you look again, the price has the biggest value, 0.5. Okay, so that's why that is the reason why I arrived at giving priority to the price in terms of when using the sensitivity analysis. So I chose price and then created a number, no, that will practically try to equalize the values for airline 1 and airline 2. So I hope that's clear, no? So that is the sensitivity analysis. So the summary for this is, okay, let's evaluate. No, airline 2 is the preferable one in terms of table 23. Okay, so if you look at the analysis that we did, airline 2 is the preferable one, 0.543 against 0.457. So if I equalize the weight for each criteria, it becomes airline 1. No? So all the weights are equal, airline 1 will become the preferable airline. And then lastly, no, airlines 1 and 2 are almost equal when the weight for the price is adjusted, being the criteria influencing the original result. So that one. So these are almost equal, and then that is because I assumed 0.37 and divided the remaining to 3. So I arrive at that value. So what does it says? 0.37. So what it says is that we can express our final recommendation as follows. Okay, if the importance of the price is more than 37% of the overall importance of the criteria in the decision, the best alternative is airline 2. However, if the importance of the price is much less than 50%, airline 1 is the better choice. So that's how I analyze that. Can we reckon, do I present the super decisions now?
Just I think just quick
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, quick example for the super decision. I think
okay, yeah.
that's
problem.
just you don't have to really explain all those results.
Yes. Okay.
Because all the result you already explained in that particular presentation.
Okay, so let me share the screen.
Yeah, while you preparing for that, William and Kay, how do you think about this presentation? Isn't it great? I feel like you explained a lot of details here, right? It's great.
It's actually quite
Set
good.
the bar very high for us.
Yeah.
It should have been the last report.
No worries, no worries, no pressure. I think like yeah, this is very high standard for even for me. I think Red, you explain it very clear. So I guess like this is a good example. But William and Kay, you don't have to be pressured about this because this is the
Thanks.
and AHP. We have a lot of materials that we can combine here, and it's very popular. And then it's easy to find the reference. But for your topics, perhaps it's not as easy as this one. So even you are not giving a example like what Red, that's no problems. Okay.
Ako nag-pause. Sige. Okay.
Okay.
Can I start?
Sure.
Sige, okay. So when we use the super decision, we open the application. Okay, so I downloaded the model 3.2 I think version. Then
do you have any difficulties on installing it?
Not really, Wira. It's fine.
Okay.
So we make a file. Now create a save and save the word and save the model file. Okay. So let's say airline select.
I think we saw some black bar on top of your screen.
This is the
yeah. Can you move it a little bit, maybe below somewhere?
Okay, I'll move it down.
Yeah. Because the menu is there.
There. It's okay now?
Yep. Yeah. So we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
one is better.
So create and save a file. No? So I named the file select airline or airline select. Okay. And then we create the clusters. No? Container for the clusters. Okay. So let's say for the first cluster, I would name it one goal. So this is the goal. Okay. So add, and then you save it. Okay. And then you create the second cluster. So add. Can you either use this one? No, on the title bar, and then you can use add node as well. Sorry, yeah, this one. And then we make another one, say for the criteria, 2 criteria. Okay, save. Okay, so we have 2 now, and then we have the final level, which is alternative. Okay, so 3 alternatives. Okay, so we put it aside so that we can see the three tables. Now we have to separate them so we can see the arrows later on. Okay, so now we have to put the node, no, for each box. Okay, so add node, for example, here, let's say our goal is to select an airline. No? Select an airline. Okay. And then the next one for the criteria is, again, they are number 1, price, ticket price. So name it price, and then we add more, and then we add reliability. Okay, so price, reliability, And then what's this schedule or the timetable, and then lastly the service. Okay, and then for the for the alternatives, we only have two, so we have to do that also for the alternatives. We add node and then airline 1 and airline 2. I'm not a good typist anyway, so so I have to add node again, airline 2. Okay. So now we have to create the connections, okay, between the nodes in different clusters. Okay, so you can see the make and show connections here now in this table. So okay, so we choose the parent node from the goal. No, select an airline to criteria which we choose for the four criteria. So price, reliability, schedule, and service. Now don't forget to press below for the saving of those connectors. And then again for each of the criteria, we have to connect them to the two alternatives. So price, we select price, parent node, and then the child node will be airline 1 and airline 2. And then save again, and then do that for the reliability as well. Okay. So we do that 3 times. Okay. Now it's good to click the connections icon to check the connection notice or to see that we have established the connections correctly. So connections, you can see the red boxes will indicate they're connected properly. And then we check for the price. Okay, they're connected to both airlines. How about the one, sir? For example, service. I press service. Oh yes, they are connected to airlines 1 and 2. Okay, now we go to the computations. No? For the computations, initially, for the computations, we go to the unweighted matrix graphical. So here you can see, without any input to the weights, we see that the select the price, liability, schedule, and service are all equal.
Yeah, I think you should share screen, I guess.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So I have to select multiple screens. Sorry.
Yep.
Can you see it now?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the table. The table. When we press computations and we select the unweighted super matrix, I just wanted to show that without any input to the weights, they're automatically divided equally. Okay. So selecting an airline based on the 4 criteria that we chose, they are 0.25. And for the airline, for each criteria, you can see it's divided by 2 equally 0.5 for each airline. So that's the only aspect of I wanted to show you for that particular icon. Okay. So now we have to make judgments. Okay, judgments for the pairwise comparisons. Okay, so judgments, you press judgments. Then you can see here, blue and red, it's just which one, it's either airline 1 or airline 2. But we have to change more important. No, I think we have to use more preferable. So it's preference. Okay, and then we save and close. Now for the for the analysis that we did, no, you can as well check on the right side the results of those choices. No? So for the first one, I chose price. I think it's 7.
Sir, it's not again. Or
Yeah,
is that
sorry.
PowerPoint lang po?
Yeah, sorry. So I'm just checking the files that we did. Okay, so for the price against reliability, okay, so price and reliability, you can see I chose 7, no, favoring or preferring price over reliability. And then for the price and schedule, I chose 5. Okay, and then for the price and service, the third row, no, is I think I chose 3. No, so far we have those values, and then for the reliability against schedule, which is the fourth one, it's +6. So 6, no, favoring favoring airline 1, and then favoring the criteria of reliability over schedule. And then for reliability and service, I chose 8, no, preferring reliability over service. And lastly, it's schedule and service. So I chose 3. Okay. So if you can see here on the results, I have an inconsistency of 0.42738. No, that's the original study that I did, the analysis that I did manually. So the problem is it will not be approved because it is more than 10%. So I have to look at the report. Okay, I have to look at the report of the inconsistency. No? So I go to matrix and then inconsistency report. Okay, then can you see the inconsistency report?
No, sir.
No, I'll share it again, another screen. How about this one?
Yes. Now it's
Okay.
shown.
Yes.
So if I make it larger, you can see that I have 2 values in red. Okay, so that is the price against the liability. My current value is 7, but it's the best value for it is 1.59. But aside from that, I have another inconsistency between schedule and service. So my initial value is 3, the current value, and the best value according to the software is 1.419. So what I did, I have to adjust that. Okay, so if I go back to the questionnaire. No, so the questionnaire. So the first inconsistency was between the price and the reliability. So from 7, I'll try to move it to 1. Okay. So it's now 0.1038. No, because I have the value of 7 and the best value according to the software is 1.5. So another one is between the schedule and the service. So I initially have a value of 3. So I put it down to 2. So now I have a inconsistency value of less than 10%. So 0.06252. Now I think I'm okay. No, I just want to emphasize, no, in the software that you can remember when I discussed the exact or approximate. So I just learned here, no, in using it. If you use the direct, you can enter actual value. So for example, if you're putting in price, you can enter the actual price you're comparing for the same route, no? So that's how it's done to be exact. So I just learned that using the software. Okay, so now that I have done the inconsistency check and corrected the value to have an inconsistency of less than 10%, no? Now I have to do the sanity check. Okay. So in sanity check, I go to computation and go to the last, no, to the last selection, sanity check. So in the sanity check, I just wanted to check, have I completed?
It's not viewable
Yeah,
po
okay.
ulit.
Yeah. Sorry. When I select, I have to share it again. So can you
Please
see
be
it now, the
patient, Red.
sanity?
Yes po.
It means we're
We're listening.
listening. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So for the sanity check, what the sanity check is, it simply wants us to be reminded that we have completed everything. But as you can see, we haven't evaluated the alternatives. Okay, so we have to do the alternatives now. No, so we check the nodes to enter the judgments for the alternatives. Okay, so judgment for the alternatives. Okay, so we go to the nodes, we select the alternatives. For the third one, I think I'm looking for it. Okay, now for the airline, okay. So can I remind you on what our ratings were for each airline? So
Yeah.
let me remind you, so we can follow how we entered it. Can you see the table?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So between the two airlines in terms of price, we assigned. I'll move it to the side. Okay. So there. Oops. Okay. So for the alternatives, as you can see in the node comparisons with respect to price. So you can see here that without entering any value, it's equal. Now that to remind you again of my selection, for the price, I assigned a value of 5 for airline 2. So I'll select the 5 red. Okay, so there. So that gives us the value of 0.167 and 0.833. Now for the next one, the criteria is reliability. So if I remind you again what we assigned for reliability, we assigned a value of 7 choosing airline 1. Okay, so in airline 1, the blue one for airline 1, it's 7. So 0.875 against 0.125. So these are very consistent to the manual process we did. Okay, for the third one, schedule, I assigned, for the schedule, I assigned, they're assigned 2 over, 2 preferring airline 2. So that goes to the red. There, you can see 0.333 preferring airline 2 over airline 1. And lastly, for the service, I gave 8 prioritizing or preferring airline 2 over airline 1. So the blue one for airline 1, I pressed 8. There. So far we have established that. Now we have to do the computation. So I would rather save the file now just to be sure. So we can review that later if we have to. So inside the computations and unweighted supermatrix. Okay. So we can see the values that we have already created. Okay, so yeah, I'll share it also as well. Okay, so now this one. So I'll make it bigger. Okay. There. So you can see in the select an airline, now based on what we did, okay, the reliability now becomes the issue. Now, if I ask why is the reliability becomes an issue now compared to when we did it manually, it was the price. Well, actually, the answer is because of the inconsistency, we have to lower that. We move the value of 7 in terms of price over reliability to make them equal. So that is the reason why we did that. No? And then we now have to, so as you can see here as well for the airlines 1 and 2, we have the values, no? For reliability, I think I have a problem with service. It did not enter for the service. I have to go back to the service because it says here 0.5 and 0.5. No, so to go to the service, I don't think that's accurate because I chose 8 already. So I can enter that again maybe. So let me check that. it's still 0.5, so I have a problem there. Please give me a few more minutes.
Can you enter that manually on the table?
The
Services for
the service. I think I want to refresh that and enter it again.
okay.
So yeah, if I select 8, and then that should give me 0.5 already. Yeah, there, I got it. So I'll show it to you. Okay. I have to share that screen again. There. So earlier this one is 0.5 for both. Now we have corrected that. For the service is 0.889 and 0.111 as we have determined in the manual way of doing it, no? Manual process. So okay, now we go back to the screen, and now we do the computation. Now to compute, we have to synthesize. Computation, and then synthesize. So wait. So it's giving me a message. There was no cluster name, anything like alternatives in the bottom level networks. So nothing to synthesize. So I'm not sure about that.
Can you see the connection between?
Yeah, connections.
Yeah, the connection between service to the airline.
Yeah.
Service.
Yeah. Wait.
I'm sure.
Service.
Yeah, there is. Right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. Figure out later. Okay, thank you.
Maybe that's because we have a free software. Anyway, I have done this earlier, so I can go back to the.
This table doesn't show yet, right?
Here. So this is what we arrived at, no? The final value that I arrived at after doing the after synthesizing, no? So airline 1 becomes preferred over airline 2 because I had to move the matrix, the value of preferring the criteria price over reliability. Remember, the original assumptions was 7. Then I moved it to 1 just to do the consistency check. And because of that, the original decision in manually doing it with airline 2, the decision was to choose airline 2, but because we had to change the reliability, the price and the reliability, it now changed to airline 1 as the final choice. So that is because of the inconsistency report that I committed when I did the manual method. I think that completes the process.
Yep. Very good presentation. Yeah, Kay, you can ask.
Okay.
I have a question lang po.
Yes, go ahead po.
Regarding that, sir. Kasi, since yun nga po na-overturn yung decision, is it possible kaya na if nakakita po nung inconsistency na report, bababaan na lang po muna lahat by 1 or in a different way para makita pa rin po yung price yung more important?
Yes, I think that can be done, no? But the way I did it, I have, that's a very good point, because the way I did it from 7 to 1, imagine that, so it practically equated, no? But since I did this, I only referred to the inconsistency report telling me that the price and reliability has to change from 7 to 1.5, and the other one is the service the last one, no? That's service and schedule, between the schedule and the
Reliability
service.
schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from 3 to 1.5. I think I could have done that the way instead of promoving it from 7 to 1.
Yeah,
I should have,
because it's too
yes,
far.
yes, it changed everything actually. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's a good point. Maybe we can do that.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yes.
It's
that's
too far
possible.
from because originally you prefer the price, and then
Yes.
suddenly you are neutral about the price.
And the liability. Yes.
Yeah. The consistency, I think, logically it happens because there is, let's say you say price is better than reliability, and somewhere reliability you say it better than I don't know whether service or something like that, but somewhere there you somehow those comparison is not consistent when you say like, okay, maybe what is the last one, schedule, let's say like this.
Yeah. Yes.
Price is more important than the reliability, and then reliability more important than service, but somewhere the use as service is more important than schedule, somehow like that, let's say.
Yes.
I don't remember your example earlier, but somewhere there when you compare, let's say the last one is schedule, now you are saying schedule is more important than reliability. This one is not consistent because at the beginning you set the chain already. It mentioned that reliability is better than the service better than the schedule. Then you cannot say that schedule will be better than reliability. That's not consistent. Can we
Yes.
can we observe that a little bit? Where is your comparison table?
There.
This is the final result. Okay.
No, this is the original pairwise comparison where I committed that caused the inconsistency.
Okay, so price will be more than reliability. Price will be more than schedule and service. Okay, reliability less important than more important than schedule, more important than service. Schedule. This should be okay. Wait.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
don't
just
understand this.
it's commonly in the value. The ones that you inputted as a whole number, they commonly resulted as more inconsistent. Commonly, inconsistency happens when it comes to when you have think of another, let's say another criteria at the same time. So, for instance, you have already established price, reliability, schedule. Then you come up with the another criteria of service just a moment ago. So sometimes your priority completely differentiates. Uh, more in a more gap, so it creates more consistency. But for this, I think you have established it very well, but I think it's commonly down to the values that you assigned to the weights, because as we can see, the gaps between them, it's actually quite big, because in the when you calculate it, it turns out that the overall priority in one criteria would be much more bigger than the rest of the other criterias, making it easily to neglect other criterias in the long run, as they would say. In the that's how the software would think. I think that because of price being the number one contributing factor in the decision making, the in the software's mind, he could actually neglect other criteria as that has the lowest priority score.
Okay. Yeah, I think somewhere, I think the value, that's one you mentioned, right, William?
Yes.
The value is like somewhere somewhat too obvious, too big
Yes.
for the price.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you set an all is big again with the others,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe that can make the
He could
conflict.
the software would possibly try to
Yes,
say
liberty,
that it
liberty.
could possibly neglect that particular criteria. So for instance, if we have price have a high priority score than reliability, then another one in schedule. If that gap totally enlarges to other criterias, then possibly that it would result as inconsistent, because you may not need to consider the schedule anymore because
Mhm,
it's quite too low as a criteria, as a
mhm.
part of the decision making.
So the things that you do before, right, is to reduce the price reliability relationship and then
Yes.
reliability and service relationship, isn't it?
Yes, the schedule and service and the
Mhm.
price and reliability.
Okay.
The
Schedule and
two.
service. Okay.
Yes, schedule and service.
Okay.
The
But
three.
that's not the only way, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I think like we can somewhat experiment on that one. So you
Yes.
you, you don't
Yeah,
reduce.
yes,
The
actually,
the point.
Doctor
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry.
Dr. Wira, it's
Yeah.
actually a common problem when we are actually using
Mm-hmm.
The
AHP.
software.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
We actually use a different software. We use expert choice. Expert choice.
Expert choice. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So um the common problem is that we try to input values that are actually quite big,
Hi.
or
Mm-hmm.
have a big gap to other
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
criteria. So fortunately in expert choice we could actually control
Mm-hmm.
uh the pairwise comparison using the
Mm-hmm.
graph that has been provided. So we can actually adjust it little by little, so we could adjust it not in a what do you call this, in a whole number. We could actually adjust it manually so that we could
Mm-hmm.
still uh adjust the the uh the weights of the criteria without mm, disrupting the overall priority that we have set. Yeah.
Okay. But the consistency checking is still like still on the threshold or not when you
Yes,
do it like that?
yeah. We
Okay.
as you adjust it with respect to your
Mm-hmm.
assigned priority, we manage to lower the inconsistency of the decision making.
Okay, okay. Maybe we can have another tutorial for you to uh display the expert choice, isn't it? Okay. Okay, William. But maybe that's for another session of the class, not today. But it's good input, William.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah, Red, you would like to say something?
No, I just wanted to
Mhm.
thank William for that information. Thank you.
Okay. Any
No,
other
no
question?
worries, Sir Red.
Yeah. Okay, so I think yeah, we can wrap up this presentation from Red. It's very good. Nice example. Next week, I plan to discuss the paper today, but seems like we have like quite some times already, 1.5 hour already. And yeah, I think we can go on, but I'm very much sure you will have another class also today. So for the presentation or the discussion of the project, first, I guess you can upload one paper that is very similar to your project. This is not the part of the assignment, but you can upload it first in the Facebook groups, and then I can like somehow analyze it and then give comments whether it's going to be doable, or is it too simple for your graduate level studies, or any things you need to concern on that particular study or paper that you want to discuss. Another thing is that I just realized that next schedule is electray. Meanwhile, I don't provide material for electray, isn't it? Have you checked it, William?
Yes, but you assigned Topsys. You want me to
Oh,
report
top
that as well?
sis. Okay, good, good. If that's the case, then go with top sis
But I
because
can report the Electra as well if you want. If
oh,
you would.
great. If because top sis we have the video, right? And
Yes.
electray actually not have yet. It's just like but have you studied electray before?
Ah, no, no.
No?
I
Okay.
I I have just seen
The
the
video that
our
I said.
syllabus.
Uh-huh.
Then I assumed that I would report Electra instead of Topsys.
Okay,
So
okay.
I
So
studied.
this way, I mean, like, if you are feeling comfortable, you can go with electric. I try to find some materials that I already post on our Facebook group. But I'm also flexible. You can tell me in a few days whether you're comfortable with the electric or not. But for now, let's try because I'm also curious because I never been implement those electric before. I don't explore the software yet. If this going to be a presentation, I can also learn from you. That's the case that very helpful to me. And but the other the disadvantage would be like I may not be able to direct you very well on that particular topics because I just also study about it. Okay.
Okay.
So, but there is no right or wrong here. I mean, like, as long as you, it's not really that difficult. It's just pretty much similar with AHP. It's just have different procedure. So I guess you can go with electric and
Okay.
then tell me if you are not comfortable with it in a few days. Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
Dr. Vera.
Okay. About the project, anyone have any question?
Uh, can I ask Wira?
Sure, sure.
I'm having a really difficult problem with finding a topic now because I'm new to this environment. I
That
just want
topic
to.
you just present is good actually.
But
choosing airline, but
isn't
it's
it
Yes.
too simple for you?
no, it's
It's
like this.
not.
It depends on your goals. For example, if you want it to be journal paper for Scopus Q1, maybe it's difficult. But if you want to use it for your qualification of you need to publish like conference, I think PhD should publish one conference paper as well, right?
Mhm.
This can
Yes.
be useful, especially like let's say I'll give this discussion to everyone here. For example, today we have a very high somewhat fluke in the airline ticket pricing, right? Due to that the gate already
The bar
open
Open.
in some
open.
country, and then people start traveling again somehow. But somehow the oil price, which is the fuel for the airline, is still high. So there are many airlines use this opportunity by having a quite high ticket price, right?
Mhm.
But now we still see a lot of destinations having quite high traffic. Like in my hometown in Bali, even though the ticket price is quite high, people still traveling there, especially uh, before this we have summer holiday, and then I think for the next winter, like for Christmas, around that end of the year will be very busy as well. But the question is like what you described earlier, how people will what how people will make their decisions of choosing these airlines, let's say like that, for a tourist area. Okay,
Mhm.
you don't have to specifically mention the tourist spot area, or if you want to have it like in particular tourist place in Philippines, that's also okay. But what is interesting is like different segment of of a customer may have different approach, right? So let's say you compare those two different segments. Let's say for this range of age, like a teenager range, and then a more mature customer, like say, like,
Professionals.
yeah, how they will decide their way to choosing the airline will shown from their weighted score, and then the final choice of the airline. But we don't need to mention the airline. You just to mention the characteristic of this airline, their ticketing prices like that, something like that. That's gonna be interesting. But this one, because this is the one you explain is a personal choice, right? One person only as the sample, but you want to explore more like more somewhat general conclusions for this one, right? So you may need more than one expert. Okay. Now in order to do more than one expert, you cannot do it like pairwise comparisons, like as simple as what we study in this chapter. There is a multi group or aggregate, the way to aggregate their choice. So that's going to be a little bit challenging for your projects if you want to do that particular airline's topics. But again, anyone, maybe William or Kay or Red, do you have any how to say, what do you think about that topics?
Sir, about
Yeah.
so about our topic, we're still not sure because we already produced AHP like research before, and we haven't talked about the other
Okay.
other processes yet. So we don't know yet if we
Okay.
can. William,
Like my suggestion for Kay and William maybe like this, because you in this class you learn new methods, right?
Yes.
But somewhat that method is used for the same objective, right? To choose from several alternatives. What maybe you can discuss the HHP result that you have studied earlier, and then you compare with these different methods. How does the result going to be different, or would they be the same result? And then provide your analysis on that. So comparing two methods and then see the results. What do you think about that? So you have partially the result already from the HP. Now you just need to compare it.
actually, we can, William. I think we can do that either on your topic or my topic, and one of us can do the electric and one of us can do the topic as a one paper. So we both have parts on the paper. We
So
just need to decide which either your paper, because sir, we weren't in the same group. So but I think it's better to use yours because ours is phone OS. So mostly it's just Android or
iPhone,
or Apple that
iOS.
will be choosing
Mine
rather
is
than
actually HP
wow.
in fast food
chain.
chain. Fast food
Yeah,
chain.
so I think
Yeah.
it's better to use that for our paper. Yeah, I
Even
think-
if you
I think
compare
that-
AHP with let's say Topsys, that's also fine.
Okay.
Okay, because our goal is only conference. I don't think conference really have those tight requirements. But if later on you are aiming for a more difficult requirements like SCI, something like that, maybe we'll think about expand it from here. You don't have to finish it on this class. I mean, like it's we just provide a kickstart for it. Okay, Red, Kay, William, anything else?
That's it for now, Vera.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, for this one, I think Red, you provide a very good presentation. So please upload it to the assignment. session on the Blackboard, and then Williams and Kay, would you provide just short summary, like one paragraphs about this presentation, and if possible, if you want to give some input about the presentations, that's also possible. Upload it on our assignment, and I think that's for today agenda. If you don't have any questions, yeah, but if you have further question, let's discuss it on Facebook group. And for today, I guess, yeah, it's fine then. Thank you very much, everyone. Good morning.
Thank you.
See you again next week.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dr.
Last
Wira.
Yeah,
clarification,
Mm-hmm.
Doc Vera. So
Yeah.
if William's gonna be taking the Electre, I'm gonna be taking the Topsis. But if he takes the Topsis, I'm gonna be taking the Prometi. So
That one you can decide from now even, like but
William, just update me which one you will be
Okay.
choosing. So
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm after you anyways. I still have
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. So
Sure. Yeah, you discuss about that and then tell me which one you're going to do. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Wira.
Very
thank
good,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I really like this class.
Okay.
Okay. Good
Congratulations,
morning,
Sir
everyone.
Red.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
William.
congrats,
Okay,
Red.
good.
It was a really good
Good. Yeah,
presentation.
Thank you.
actually.
Okay. Permission to end the class. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.